My name is Breon Wells. I'm the president and founder of the Daniel Initiative. We are a government relations and strategic communications firm that specifically focuses on BIPOC and multi-marginalized communities. So, you know, in the Black community, even in marginalized communities, we're always changing the nomenclature that we want to be referred to as. But BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. We find that that's one of the more comprehensive terms that we can use when we're talking about our needs in policy or our needs even from a social impact space. You know, especially as any entrepreneur, no day is the same. Every day is always different, especially on the hustle that we have going on at the Daniel Initiative, because we're always developing and deriving new strategies on the government relations front and as well on the social impact side. So we're trying to make sure that what is being said in the streets is heard loud and clear in the halls of Congress, is heard very clearly in these state legislators. And so our clientele is broad. The people that we get to interact with and partner with is broad. We even had a milestone recently where we were able to spearhead congressional relations for the March on Washington that happened in August 28th with Reverend Sharpton and Martin Luther King III. So, you know, I get up every day and I figure out what does it take to be able to help us in this fight for collective liberation. Yeah, so our clients, I think it's best to answer this by saying, who and what am I trying to dismantle? We are unapologetic about dismantling white supremacy in all of its forms, especially in the policy space. We find if you think of, take for example, voting, since we're in this election, with voting rights, even though the 15th Amendment gave Black men the right to vote, we didn't see the reality of that till 100 years later through the Voting Rights Act. And so policy for us is everything. That's what connects the dots between these people that are screaming on the street. If it's not tied in some ways to an outcome in policy for these protections, then we're doing this for naught. And so, you know, for us, it's always about making sure that whether you're talking about developing social impact strategies or whether you're talking about engaging this footprint, that again, we are making these access pipelines where people are inherently able to be themselves. So our clients is everybody, literally from the Black store owner and the business owner, to those that may be in the marijuana industry, to those that are trying to figure out if you're an artist, right, and a gig economy worker. We have worked on and lobbied for the Music Modernization Act to be passed, to the tech industry, making sure that even things like surveillance, that we're not surveilled in spaces and it causes undue harm, but also that we have this access and this pipelines up to be able to be in the C-suites in these offices, and then civil rights leaders. And so we find that we have a broad clientele and a broad approach because this is kind of this by any means necessary hustle that we have been about to ensure that people's privacies, people's rights, and then their ability not just to thrive or just to exist, but to excel is protected.
So my name is Keith James, 1/3 founding member of the Coalition Properties Group, one of the top Black-owned real estate firms in the DMV and one of the fastest growing real estate companies in the country. Our mission is to be the bridge to our community for all things real estate, lifestyle, and wealth building. 90% of the wealthiest Americans get their wealth from real estate, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We want to make sure we're helping our clients understand what that wealth building journey looks like. When you talk about the year 2020, a lot of people, like myself, didn't have a lot of wealth passed down to them, you know? So how I help people understand what that wealth building journey looks like is by helping them own their first home. Ownership is very important. The great thing about ownership and owning the first home, there are a lot of benefits to having a flexible, appreciating asset. So that's what I call a real estate property, a flexible, appreciating asset. And with that asset, you can leverage that asset for other things, businesses, banking. And I always tell people to, hey, think of your property as a bank. Once you build that equity up, you can pull from that bank to start your business, you know? So when you talk about ownership and leveraging wealth and how to be able to pass wealth down efficiently, it starts with real estate. This country was founded and its principles was based on the rules of real estate. Yeah, well, basically, we start behind, you know, as African Americans, when we graduate college, we're one of the top demographics that have student loans in order to be successful. But when you graduate college and you have student loans, that's an extra payment you have to think about. You know, there's no peace of mind around not having and being free of debt. So looking at that from a standpoint, if we have ownership and we're able to build equity in our ownership, graduating college, that's kind of like the first step. When you graduate and get out in the world and not have to worry about peace of mind, not have to worry about debt, I think that helps out a lot, and it frees you up and it clears you of being able to be successful in the world. There's two things I always say. Peace of mind and good energy is everything. And you wanna make sure you have that, whether you're working a 9 to 5, an entrepreneur, business owner, starting your journey, that's huge. And when you don't have debt after graduating in college, that's everything.
Hi, my name is Maia Daniels. I am a catering chef with Tumpe Tastings. I've been in the culinary industry since about 2012 when I graduated from culinary school. And I just have a passion for cooking. I've pretty much been cooking my whole life with my grandmothers, with my dad, my mom, cooking breakfast for my brothers as young as like 5 or 6 years old, pancakes shaped into Mickey Mouse or something. It wasn't until I went to college I began cooking for my classmates. And after graduating from FAMU, go Rattlers, I decided to go to culinary school. I finished culinary school in 2012, where I went on to become a chef at one of the large hotels in DC. So prior to getting my first contract, one of the things I wish I knew was the whole pricing strategy of how to charge my customers. Like I know how much the food costs, I know how much time it takes me to cook the food, and I know I brought this equipment years prior and I need this new equipment for the current event. So how do I break that down to make sure I'm getting paid properly and the customer is getting what they need and not being overcharged? So when we have catering events, we want to give things a more of a sparkle once it's displayed on the buffet. We use this blowtorch to sort of give it that extra like little tint or color to make the food look more appealing, like a nice little sizzle. It's my favorite little new toy.